That's a very successful implementation from IBM to actually involve clients. Is this what we intended? Is this good? Should we do like this? And when you get the developers talking to one another, discussing solutions, I think that's beneficial. We can see over, I'd say, the past 2 years, we have seen an increasing interest from other vendors, mostly from like in bookkeeping or financial systems.
Token Arthur was always curious about new things. One day, while flying over the jungle, he saw a group of animals exchanging goods and services using colorful stones. So he contacted Fintech CTOs from fantastic companies all around the world and collaborated with them to learn all about finance. Inspired, Arthur asked Insert CEO Vasil to help start a podcast to share their knowledge with the world. This is what you are watching right now, Fintech CTO Podcast. Enjoy.
Okay, yeah. So in fintech world also, I see that like majority of platforms, they have a set of features related to workflows automation, to data processing, to integrations, as we discussed with third parties. They should maybe have a client portal and also a data analytics and reporting system. And for Qvalia, so what would be the unique selling features for your clients among these or maybe other features that you have on your platform?
I think we combine like data handling with, as you mentioned, we have analytics, like spend analytics, with the traditional usage of being a message exchange. I think you have the traditional message exchange platforms, normally called value-added networks or VANs, but they don't really handle the data for you. They don't do any inspection of the data. They are more like post offices. They send and receive messages to and from senders and recipients. But we actually inspect, handle that data for you, where we can add filters, we can do routing on your data, and also we can, of course, do analytics part to summarize your purchases or sales and do the full analytics on them for spend, as I mentioned, for example. So I think that's where we, based upon the master data that we have built, we are able to do this in a fast and efficient way as well.
So by the way, how large is the volume of transactions at the moment that pass through your system?
In number, I'd say, yeah, well, depends, of course, a bit as well. A lot of companies tend to be batch-oriented still. But I'd say somewhere around 1 million or more a month in average.
So batch, do you mean like overnight batch data processing or what?
Yes, either every night, or we have customers that they run their invoices, for example, at the end of the month. So then they can run invoices for like 2-3 days, where they send a lot of invoices, outbound invoices for them. And then they don't do anything for the rest of the month. And then at the end of the next month, they come again and they send thousands and thousands of invoices.
Okay, got it. And do you have any statistics like how many companies they do like real-time invoicing and how many like in batches? Does it really matter for the platform?
It doesn't really matter for the platform. We spent the first time of building the platform more like R&D-ish to see what do we need to build, what does the customer want, and then we have restructured a lot and rebuilt a lot over the past 2 years, where we finalized, well, past 3 years actually. We finalized that about a year ago, where we have built the platform as 100% serverless to be able to cope with kind of any load that we can get. Because we noticed that having the master database as one single database, we had to increase the size of it all the time because of everything hit the master database. So reconstructing that, building it as microservices instead has really made the difference.
Okay. So look.
Yeah, sorry, I'm running out of battery. I need to fetch my charger.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. We'll edit this.
Yeah, sorry about that. I hope you can edit it out.
Yeah, we'll do it. No problem.
Yes, so now I'm charging.
Okay, so now we're back. No problem. All right, so yeah, so we were talking about the volume on transactions. So it's interesting to know as soon as you have, as I see, a kind of peak loads during the months, and we have observed something similar for systems that like for e-commerce systems and for fundraising systems that actually have peak loads during the holidays because everyone are purchasing or donating, and we have a peak load of transaction during this period of time. And as I see, you have a peak loads during the months when somebody sends the invoices in batches. So how you scale your system at this moment? So how you handle these peak loads?
We're using AWS as a cloud provider, and when we designed the platform, we have designed it for asynchronous flows and synchronous flows. So what needs to happen synchronously and what can wait for some time. Handling orders and invoices is good from the extent that nobody will call you if the invoice is delayed by 2 hours or even a day. Orders might be trickier. People tend to want to get the orders through, but at the same time, the B2B process itself is asynchronous. So you're not expecting the order, so you don't know when it should arrive. But we have tried to isolate the parts that are performance intensive and handling them to offload the system as much as possible, which we do by using message queuing systems, SQS in Amazon, to offload the receiving system. So we receive the messages, we validate the messages. We of course do the security checks to make sure that the data is valid and for the intended account. But as soon as we have done that, we put them aside on an asynchronous SQS queue. And then we have the next microservice that actually picks up and processes those messages. And that service in turn runs in its own phase, so it doesn't get overwhelmed, even though if the queue grows, it continues to process the messages. And that's we can of course control how many functions do we want to run in parallel to reduce the number of messages on that queue to continue eating messages, so to speak.
Okay, so speaking about the APIs, so what do you believe like the biggest mistake that can be done during designing and developing your APIs?
I think it's important to, Well, first of all, security, of course, making sure that no one can access your APIs that shouldn't access your APIs, but also have a good structure of how you're building your routes, the URI, so that you can get a dynamic structure of your routes and actually build code to execute on each individual route with the same mindset about asynchronous, synchronous calls to see what is performance, what's important to have low latency on, for example, and to be able to build that in kind of a prioritized queue kind of way, so that you can process low latency APIs faster than, I mean, posting in an invoice. It's not really, nobody's going to care if that takes 500 milliseconds or if it takes 2 seconds. Well, unless you have set your timeout for less than 2 seconds, then you might be a little bit upset if it times out. But but if you ask for various statuses, for example, workflow statuses that we have for syncing with your own financial system, so which invoices are approved, which are signed, and so on, that's something that needs to be handled fairly quickly and with low latency, so that nobody accidentally approves the same invoice twice or signs the same invoice twice. So those are low latency APIs that we need to handle instead.
So you designed the Qvalia platform, and you already mentioned a number of principles that you have implemented, like design first approach, like designing APIs, efficient APIs. So what other principles have you implemented while designing the platform?
It's, I'd say, a lot around the message flows, and of course transactional safety. We are handling financial data, which is of course important that the customer can trust our platform and know that nothing gets lost, nothing gets changed, and that we have good and solid logging, both functional logging, but also audit logging of what's going on in the platform, who's doing what, and timestamps on anything. So I think that has always been a very fundamental part of building the solution, to be able to backtrack and follow along the flows, and to be able to ensure the transactional safety of any message passing through the platform.
So, by the way, for how many years have you been with Qvalia?
I've been with Qvalia for, well, I think almost 7 years now, something like that.
Okay. So look, like 7 years building the platform, and from my experience, it's a pretty long time, and probably during this time you already have a set of like technical depth issues, and like I've seen this for all the platforms that are successful from the business perspective and that operates on the market. And different companies, they have different approach and process to couple with and to handle the technical depth. So actually, what's your approach? So what's your strategy handling the technical depth?
Well, the strategy should have been don't allow technical debt to exist. But unfortunately, that's not how things work out in real life, I guess. I think the major problem for us when it comes to our technical debt is that the technology for both coding, we're using Node.js. Database functions, we are using Postgres, has changed a lot over the past 7 years ago since we started building. But also our focus, of course, has changed. When we started out, Qvalia consisted of financial consultants and the platform. The platform we actually started to build to support the consultants in their work, to be able to easily collect invoices and do recovery audit and VAT, tax summaries, tax calculations. It was only later that we realized that we can use this platform to also let customers handle their invoices and do their own tax calculations and so on. So that was like the first change in strategy that we did. Then about a year ago, we actually sold the consultancy part to Ryan, the US company. So they started up as Ryan Sweden, here in Sweden and in the rest of the Nordics as well. And that's when we also kind of released our first true platform version, if you will, where we actually focus solely on the platform and solely on our customers on the platform, and not utilizing it for the financial consultant services anymore.
So, by the way, why the company, and why did you decide to sell the consultancy business?
It was, we could see that building the platform to support both customers and to support the financial consultants in their work, we could see that the functions started to deviate too much. So we were kind of at the intersection deciding, do we want to focus on the platform and on the customers and on the Peppol side and analytics and so on, or do we want to focus on the consultancy affair and financial consultancy? So we realized that the platform cannot really fit both. So we had to make a decision on which road to take, and we chose the platform part and continue on that journey to support our customers.
Okay, yeah, so like different business models and
yes, exactly, yes,
focusing on platform business model more. Understood. So back to the technical debt thing. So, but by any chance, like, have you done like full rewrites at some point of time or not?
Oh yes, more than once, unfortunately. That also comes from when we started out. Then Node.js frameworks were hot, and you were supposed to use a Node.js framework. At that point in time, the options were kind of Express or Sales.js. And that's sales, like sales on a ship, not sales as selling stuff.
Okay.
So we opted to go with sales and started to build our platform upon that. It was an MVC platform, so we actually built the front end into that as well when we started out. And then we built the supporting functions as on their own server. But soon after we started, AWS announced Lambda functions, which actually supported Node. I think it was Node 4 at that point, Node 4.3. I think we wrote our first Lambda in. So that actually started our journey into microservices because we started to utilizing Lambda services more and more. And over the years, we have moved a lot of functionality from the old sales kind of framework into Lambdas instead. And then, of course, moving away from the consultancy business, the financial services that we had, we have also had to rebuild some services that we wanted to have more of a platform focus and use other functions or remove functions as well that we no longer need because of that. And of course, Node.js is releasing new versions rapidly with a lot of new good functionality that you actually want. AWS follows along, and they deprecate the old Node.js versions, so you kind of have to update your code now and again. Some microservices we've noticed had grown too big, that they actually started to handle multiple functions or multiple scenarios, which I think a microservice should handle one function and one function only. So that has meant that we have actually had to divide microservices into two or more microservices actually. And we have also had examples where microservices have not grown or not gotten the functionality that we had intended them to have, where we have moved that functionality into other microservices as well to lessen the number.
So look, sometimes companies, they are afraid a little bit into investing into refactoring and re-engineering their systems, because they are more focused on, on developing more and more additional features that are probably requested by the current clients and by the prospective clients. So, and this can be a strategy, from the sales and marketing perspective and product perspective. But still, you need to invest into technical depth. But I've seen companies that actually they're just sitting on the same architecture without like doing some major refactoring or rewriting the system. So why they are afraid doing this? So, and how to maybe explain to the board or to explain to the financial department that actually this is or to products, so that this is something important to do.
I think it always comes down to the same thing, and that's cost.
Yes, for sure.
It costs money to refactor things.
Yes,
and I think this
is the objections, though. Why boards,
yes.
why CEOs and CTOs they are not approving actually this.
I think it's important to kind of prove the benefit of the refactoring. I mean, as a developer, I think most developers I have ever met can agree on one thing: ugly code is horrible. You don't want to see ugly code.
Okay.
But unfortunately, ugly code exists. That ugly code, if it's doing what it's supposed to do without any major issues, refactoring for the purpose of just changing code but not changing the functionality, that's not something that we normally do. However, if I change a service and I add some functionality or something to that, I normally change the old code to match the new code. Like for example, with Node.js, we have optional chaining now, which means that we can check if an object exists or if an object has a value in a nice and easy to use one-liner code, instead of using a lot of different conditions to actually check for that. So if I update something to Node 14 or Node 16, I also change it to use optional chaining throughout that service because it doesn't take long and it makes it easier to grasp and easier to understand for the next developer that has to read that code sometime in the future. But proving that the refactoring actually makes something better, that you actually gain something from doing the refactoring. A lot of old code tend to get a lot of functions. You might have duplicate functions doing kind of the same thing. You might have changed dependencies, so you need to change how that function calls something else. Depending on how those functions handle data, and also like increasingly complex conditions where you have kind of spaghetti code, which a lot of it's error prone. It causes a lot of errors. It causes a lot of bugs to exist in other places. In those, I think it's important to collect the data of the problems you actually have with the code. Like for example, we always report all bugs in Jira. So we have a collection of the bugs. and also add estimates to fixing them and adding a description on why we should fix them. Not all bugs are critical to fix. Some might be annoying. Something is throwing errors in the log, even though nothing is really affected, but that's never nice to have errors in the error log, which are not actually errors. So that's something that you maybe don't have to fix directly, and it's something that actually don't affect the functionality. But as soon as you have something affecting functionality or effectiveness, if you have a team that has to handle those non-errors, it takes time from that team to actually verify that, oh, this is not an error, we can ignore it. That takes time, and even if it's just a few seconds, it's still time, and that time adds up. And there you can actually prove that by removing this bad code, we can actually save money by the support team doesn't have to look into this ticket anymore.
Yes, actually. And look, so when you develop the system, it grows. Yeah, so the architecture maybe becoming more and more complex, and maybe you're having more and more additional scope of work in your backlog. And the question here is about, so there should be some size of the team that is more optimal for this particular stage of the product evolution, for the system evolution, taking into account the complexity of the system, taking into account the size of the backlog that you have, taking into account again the level of the technical depth that you have. So do you believe you have like the optimal size of the team for this stage of the product? Would you like to, to increase the number of engineers, or it doesn't make sense? So what's your opinion here?
Well, it's problematic. The problem is that I kind of have two chairs to sit on. One is leading the team, building the platform. One is making management and the sales team happy.
Okay.
If you ask the sales team and management, I'm sure they want to increase the team. They want to get more functions faster. They want to make things better and being able to sell more. But at the same time, at the stage we are now, we are most of the developers has been with us for quite some time, so they are all very knowledgeable in the platform, how everything works, and data models and so on, which means that it is a very efficient team, since they can jump on pretty much anything in the platform and continue building new stuff that fits in. But if we want to start increasing the team at this point, it also requires a lot of planning, like how are we going to divide the projects. We're going to need another project manager. We're probably going to need another product owner as well, because they are utilized at 100% currently. And then the question comes, okay, how do we divide the team? And if we have a bigger team, that team will probably have to focus on one part of the platform, and by that they will not be fully knowledgeable like the rest, but they have only that particular. So it takes, I think, some planning and careful consideration on just adding people to a team does not mean that you get more efficient, that you get more done. It also requires to have the supporting or the foundation of driving the team, like product managers, architects, product owners, and of course also testers. QA testers is something that it takes a long time to build up the skill set of the QA tester on a platform of our size. We have a lot of moving parts. We have a lot of different data sets, a lot of different integrations. various ways of handling data and building rules and such, which of course requires a lot from the QA team as well.
So how do you decide then whether to add additional engineers? So when actually to add additional engineers to your team? So based on what triggers, based on what situation?
That we plan the roadmap. It stretches. We have a very rough roadmap that stretches actually 4 years ahead. But the roadmap that we look at stretches about a year ahead. That roadmap
That's long.
That roadmap will in turn be broken down into various projects, and then depending on the project, we try to estimate, okay, how big of an effort is this? How many people is it going to require? How much of project management time, how much of product owner time, and so on is going to be required to drive this project? And then it also comes down, of course, to the management teams and the sales teams' priorities. What do they want? What is the most urgent thing to get done? What do we think is the most beneficial for the platform to add? And when we have that, we have brought on board temporary resources for certain projects. Like we have been running a machine learning project where we want to find and categorize invoice items. So if you buy if you purchase a laptop, you will get an invoice where it says some laptop on the invoice item. And that we have done manually before to categorize it, because that's an important part of the analytics, and especially the spend analytics, to know what you've actually bought. And I think we're kind of unique in the sense that we actually offer spend analytics on line item level. But of course, adding categories on line items, it's a tedious task for people to sit and try to set those categories. We're using the UNSPSC standard for categories. So there we started out with a pilot to see if we can utilize machine learning to actually do that categorization for you. That pilot turned out to be very successful. So that's actually something we have implemented just now into the platform in the production level to do that machine learning categorization. And this far, it actually exceeds the expectations on what can be automatically categorized.
Yeah, great. This machine learning, machine learning that actually replaces some manual tasks, manual workflows. It's really great. So I see this in many different areas of fintech right now, and I actually excited that you have that long-term vision for the future of the product, like 4 years backlog, and having more granular backlog for the next and roadmap for the next year. So what coming next? So what will be the major features that you're going to release next year?
Well, we're going to continue working on that line item spend capabilities, of course, improving that to include more detailed analytics parts like spend over time, and to be able to better filter and analyze various purchase behaviors. So that's one important part. We also started to developing at the same time, because knowing what a line item is in an invoice will also let us know what VAT or tax that's supposed to be deducted for that particular invoice item, which can help us using building VAT automation or tax automation to actually do pre-posting of invoices for your financial system. So that's something we are currently working on as well. And apart from apart from that VAT automation, Peppol is actually introducing something called CTC in Europe. CTC is a control function for the government, basically, to get real-time updates on purchases, so that you have to report the tax amounts for things that you sell directly to the tax authorities. And that, of course, is something that we build in at the same time to the VAT automation. And more integrations, I think, is also a key part of the platform to add more partners, add more integrations to the platform that we're using.
So what are the major integrations on the list?
Major integrations, I think we are currently working on adding Microsoft Dynamics, for example. I think will be coming fairly soon. We have started working on adding more web shop like WooCommerce, and also Shopify is coming up. So bit of a different areas on how to integrate, but we are currently adding more and more functionality. Fort Knox, which is a very popular bookkeeping system here in Sweden, is also something we're going to add support for very soon.
Yeah, okay, great, Anders. So cool. So I see that you have a pretty consistent backlog and roadmap for the next year to develop and to deliver to your clients. And actually, thank you very much for having this pretty deep conversation about the Qvalia product and about your experience.
Yeah, thank you. It's been interesting.
Yeah, and so to everyone who are watching us right now, so please put all your comments below and all your questions and maybe some opinions. So what do you think about financial business transactions automation and how to build the efficient APIs, and also what architecture design principles do you use to design your software platforms and fintech? And so if you're also interested, again, as I said in the beginning, in trying Qvalia, so you can find the descriptions, you can find the links to the description of Qvalia APIs and to documentation in the description to this video below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. And again, it was Anders Wasen from Qvalia and Vasil Salashuk from Insights. And thank you for watching this video, and be healthy. And see you next time in the next episode of our Fintech CTO Podcast. Bye-bye.
Still watching us and have not subscribed yet? Let's fix this. Also, don't forget to like this video and take a look at the other episodes we have. See ya!